operate at their best capacity for the dollars that we have to spend. So, yeah, I got the message about tourism. I'll tell Al who said so.
Question. You had two charts that were very similar. They basically were 6-year bar charts, with the last year being Hick, the first year being Owens, and 4 years in between. Can you, by memory, tell me what was going on under the Owen years so that the trend showed that very rapid increase, about 20% in the 4 years after Owens? What was the growth rate when Owens was in there, like for a previous 4-year period? Any sense of it?
The growth rate during the Owens administration had not been as large as it was during the Ritter administration. But keep in mind, during the Owens administration, at the end of the Owens administration, we went through the recession in 2000. And so his who knows, if we had not had that recession, it may have been higher than what it ended up at. And I don't want to get into the partisanship because that doesn't do anybody any good. But during the Ritter administration, we had a peak, 06, 07. Things were going very well, and when we got out of the recession in 2000, we had a very ramped, vertical swing out of that recession, and we all did very, very well. In the construction industry, I started feeling the recession in 06, 07, because you can start watching. It wasn't that there weren't cranes downtown, it's just that the slowness of them coming, reoccurring, had slowed down. And then the other part of the swing up on the Ritter administration was the ARA funding. So that's why it continued to go up instead of flattening the way it did under the Ritter administration. With the bailout, all those dollars, that's what kept it swinging up higher. Governor Ritter was very intent about expanding Medicaid, and that the hospital provider fee, which people probably don't know about, but what that did is that expanded Medicaid in the state of Colorado. What they said and what they have said is that Colorado made more advances in expanding Medicaid during the Ritter administration than most any other state in the country. And he had a mission, and that's what it was. Yeah.
I've been trying to think about how to phrase this question. I'm over here, sorry. And I guess my question involves higher education spending and the fact that the state is 48th or 49th in that. Are you concerned about that? Is the Joint Budget Committee concerned about that, especially as it relates to the growth in employment here and the need for education?
Yesterday when we were doing figure setting for higher education, the first budget we were concerned with was the Colorado Commission of Higher Education. These are the people that are the advisory board that oversees articulation rates and everything else. And their budget was $2 million. And I had expressed rabid concern last year that with all the cuts to higher ed, that budget had never been cut, that they were still operating at their same level. And my anger was, how dare you cut higher education and you not even cut your own budget. So last year, in the 10-11 budget cycle, I made a motion to defund the Department of Personnel because, if you lose your temper, you can just defund government, and it really feels good. So yesterday, I made a motion to defund CCHE and take that $2 million and give it to kids for financial aid. It didn't go anyplace. But I am more worried about what we're doing with higher ed. I mean, putting the K-12 conversation to the side, I think as far as economic impact and the message we're sending to companies and to the young people in Colorado, what we're doing with higher ed is it's terrible. I mean, I can't express to you, it's very, very, very bad. I mean, we're losing our students because if you can go someplace else, do you know how many people are sending their kids to the University of Wyoming to get their undergrad because the University of Wyoming will give you better scholarships and better support for your children than your own state will. And that, it takes my breath away. But thank you for the question. And yes,
I assume that by now most of the easy fat has been taken out of the state budget. So if we had to reduce the budget another $1 million, what would be the targets for the reduction?
well, that gets back to the previous question. What the minority leader in the House has said is that we're one recession away from defunding higher ed. That's what it would be. To me, if we get to that point, we're in a lot of trouble. Now, keep in mind that this is a flat recovery, but we're coming out, and I'm feeling really good. There was a good article about in the Post today from Ben Bernanke. I'm feeling good about it. We're more stable in our recovery than we were 6 months ago. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But I know that they would go after higher ed. Because federal mandates, you can't go after Medicaid, healthcare reform, can't do that. Can't go after K through 12, Lovato. By the way, the Constitution doesn't say, what the Constitution says is that we will provide an education, a public education for our children from age 6 to 21. So, and I talked to Attorney General Suthers, and he said, well, now, Cheri, that's because, you didn't go to school all the time, and they were trying to give you an opportunity. Kids didn't go to school like they do now. No, they weren't including colleges. But I still, that's what's in the Constitution. And we're not living up to what's in the Constitution. So, but that's where they pull it out. Well, thank you. Oh,
Thank you.
oh you're
Sorry,
asking me a hard
Sandy.
numbers question, aren't you? She just asked where the money's going to come from. Well, part of it's going to come from the recovery, from the revenue recovery. It takes 7 years for the state to recover from a recession. Part of it's going to come from the decisions that you all make. And what we're doing right now is we're having an excellent core values conversation. And I don't think it's really simmered up yet, but there are a lot of core values conversations that are happening around groups, around the state. And you all have to decide how you want your dollars to be spent, and you all have to decide what's important to you. And you make that decision when you go to the polls. So basically, that's what it's going to be. I talked to the League of Women Voters, and I asked them, I said, if you guys would, they said, what can we do to help? And I said, you could try to hold community meetings and try to have core values conversations and see. But it's got to be balanced. Because what's happened in the past is every time we've had a core values conversation, and this is the most partisan you're going to hear me sound, but whenever we've had those conversations in the past, because it's been controlled by one party, those conversations have had a guaranteed end. And so that doesn't move us forward. We have to have a real good, neutral, there isn't parties, what do we want our state to be conversation. And I would hope business would lead the way in that. Because quite honestly, usually if business is leading the way, things come out so much better because they tend to stay in the middle, and that's where the answers are, it's someplace in the middle. So, but thank you very, very much. I appreciate it.